The accusations against Harvey Weinstein have been a catalyst for a much broader conversation in our culture. But will those conversations lead to real change? That is the topic of tonight's Left Hook, Right Jab. Joining us tonight, Steve Novick and KXL's Lars Larson. Gentlemen, welcome back. Here is your question for tonight. Will the firestorm over sexual abuse allegations against Weinstein and other executives bring long-term change? And Steve starts first tonight.
I hope that it makes a difference. It's been encouraging in the past few days to see women who work, for example, in the California legislature and the Oregon legislature coming forward and talking about the abuse they've suffered. But it will take a massive societal effort to end the constant harassment of women. And it is constant. Virtually every woman I know has gone online the past week to say, "Me too." And remember, women thought they couldn't speak up about Harvey Weinstein because he could make or break their careers. We live in a society where men have almost all the economic power. Look at the Fortune 500. 468 of the CEOs are men. But we have to get from being a society where women are afraid to speak out because they're afraid of losing their jobs to being a society where men are afraid to commit harassment because they're afraid of losing their jobs. And Lars, I hope we can agree this is not a partisan issue. We live in a state, Oregon, we've had a Democratic politician, David Wu, and a Republican politician, Bob Packwood, exposed as abusers.
Well, Steve, I can agree that there are some partisan angles to this, but I hope as well as you do that people do come forward, that this stuff is exposed. However, looking back at the last 20 or 30 years, I'm a bit skeptical that we're going to see any permanent change. Because remember, Oregon has its own tawdry history. We've had Neil Goldschmidt, who raped a 13-year-old girl and got away with it to a large extent. We've had David Wu, as you mentioned. We've had Sam Adams, who pursued a 17-year-old till he turned 18 and was mayor of Portland and survived 2 recalls. I'm kind of, I guess, resigned to the idea that we're not going to see long-term permanent change because it doesn't seem in our nature at this point. I hope for the same things you hope for, but I don't see it happening in our history.
I have a question, Lars.
Yeah.
Do you believe the 15 women who have said that Donald Trump assaulted them?
I believe some of them. I think some of them appear during the campaign to have said things that were implausible, but some of them may be right. I don't know. That could be resolved by the courts, and that's where it should go.
I'm really glad to hear you say that you do believe some of them. And I was impressed by, I read what you said about Bill O'Reilly a few months ago. I'm glad we agree this is an issue that is not a partisan issue. It's a huge societal problem that we need to address.
When you spend $32 million to settle a claim, that's not a nuisance claim. We all know what happens in nuisance claims where somebody decides to pay a small amount of money to avoid a large court fight. But in that case where he paid $32 million, there was something there. And Lise Wheel's a nice lady. She's been a guest on my show plenty of times, and she shouldn't have been treated the way that O'Reilly treated her.
Well, we need to, I've actually had some people say, what are 2 men doing discussing this issue? But men need to stand up and say, this conduct is intolerable. We're going to believe women. We are going to support women. We are going to call out people who abuse women.
Well, isn't it as big an issue for men as it is for women, and that we all have women in our lives that we care about, that we love, and we don't want to see this stuff happen. And I think it's sad that it went on so long and so many people knew about what was going on and didn't step forward and do the right thing. I'm glad the New York Times finally did.
Gentlemen, thank you. Let's hope it does lead to long-term change. We appreciate your being here. We'll see you next week for Left Hook, Right Jab.
Thanks,
Tracy and Joe.